don't know what has happened over the past couple of days, but I have been up at basically at 5 o'clock every single morning. This morning I woke up at 4:50 actually. Was able to get a bunch of stuff done before 6 a.m. and then pretty much knocked out a ton of work, and it is approximately 8:30. Going to the gym for the second day in a row and then do some paddleboarding later today. The gym went well. Onward to the midwife. The smoking corner is right here, but you have to have a walker or else you're not able to be on the smoking corner. Midwife appointment went very, very well today. Everything is a-okay.
The baby is head down.
Oh, you want to participate today?
I just wanted to say that one thing.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Welcome back to part 4 of the Money Mindset. Today we're going to talk about $132,000 of debt that I've paid off over the past 6 years. I don't know if you can actually read that, but I just want to congratulate Julie Bacon and Jillian Anderson for day 1 and 2. You're going to get a copy of Money, a Love Story for Kate Northrup. I haven't calculated or I figured out who day 3 is yet because I haven't read all the comments. So you're going to get a copy of Money, a Love Story. This is a great book that expands on everything that we're talking about this week. So if you haven't picked up a copy of Kate Northrup's book, what are you waiting for? Get on it. And today is day number 50 of WattsTV. It's pretty amazing, and we're gonna have a big giveaway today on day number 50. 50 days. I have done a daily video every single day for 50 days. They've ranged from like a couple minutes to 20 minutes. Been featured on an online website before. Like, my videos have been watched by thousands and thousands of viewers and people, which is amazing, and thank you so much for watching and commenting and being part of the community. But what it's done for me, it's just energized me, and I would say I really started hitting my groove for myself, I believe, around video 42. And it was just taking all this massive action, and I can't wait to see what the next 50, if I do another 50, I'm not sure. I don't know what's gonna happen. We'll just run with it. And that's the cool part about it. So today, to celebrate WattsTV hitting 50, I'm going to give away a copy of the Cash Flow board game put together by Robert Kiyosaki. We're actually playing this tonight with some friends. It's going to be really, really fun. This is a great thing. It's like Monopoly, but it's a little bit, I like it a little bit better. It's pretty cool. And if you have not read Rich Dad Poor Dad, a book by him, that is the book that has changed my life. This thing is over, the value is, I think it's like $120 or $130 just for this board game. So you're going to get a sweet prize, whoever gets it. I don't know what else to say, but whoever gets it. Okay, so let's dive right in. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my situation, and then I had some questions that came in from a couple people that they wanted to know more specifically about how I paid the debt off, so we're going to answer those as well. The number one thing I did to pay my debt off I focused, and then with that, I started taking myself seriously. I started deciding that what I was bringing into the planet, what I was bringing into the world, what I'm bringing into this environment was serious. I started treating myself better. I started really looking at my lifestyle. This was a big one. I looked at my lifestyle. I looked at what my life consisted of. And I've told this story, and I'll tell this story again before, but it's just what my life consisted of. For 12 solid years, from the time I was 16 years old to the time I was 28, I was very, very consistent of drinking, smoking, doing drugs, smoking lots of pot, like all sorts of different avenues, going to the bars, hanging out in social scenes, having a really, really good, fun time. But once I started to focus that I needed to pay the debt off, and I started taking myself seriously, things really started to change for me. That debt came really fast. It just started melting away. So also, what did I start doing by taking myself seriously? My goal was to increase my income, but what I really, really did was decrease my expenses. I looked at all of my expenses. I looked at the rent I was paying. I looked at the cars I was driving. I was looking at how much I was spending out at different places. And then I focused on increasing my income, and I'll talk about that here in a second. And I'm also going to talk about that more in tomorrow's video, specifically around residual income and the truth about it and how it revolved around my business. So what I ended up doing is I looked at my expenses. I looked at every single purchase that I was making for the period of about 1 to 3 months, and I just started analyzing every expense that I was making, and I started looking at that to realize where am I spending money on? How am I spending this money? Does it make any sense to be spending money here? And then also this is the time where Kate and I started traveling. We started traveling on the road together, so my living expenses went from paying in a house to traveling on the road for 11 months. So it really cut down on what my living expenses were. I decreased, I sold my home in North Carolina, was a big thing I did. This is before Kate and I started traveling. This was more in 2009, 2010. And we started traveling in 2011, so you can kind of see the time frame. And I sold my house that was costing me a ton of money, and it just decreased my living expenses. I decreased buying clothes, I decreased buying, I always enjoyed eating better food, and this was also what I started taking myself seriously. I started really eating, consuming health, and I started treating my health better. This all plays in line with paying your debt off, because if you're treating yourself like crap in one area of your life, especially when it comes to our health, and this is a big one on number 4, like what did I end up doing? The health is so important because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not operating at a level that is clear in your mind to be able to do these things and to start treating yourself. If we're consuming lots of alcohol, or we're consuming lots of drugs, or we're consuming cigarettes or toxins or any of this, and it comes with the food we're putting in our mouth, whatever we put into our mouth, if we're not watching what those are, there's no way we're going to value ourselves enough to start decreasing our expenses and increasing our income, because if we're not doing these things and we're not treating ourselves good from a health standpoint, there's no way we're going to take ourselves seriously, there's no way our focus will be at the top of our game, and there's no way that anybody else is going to buy anything from us if we have a business or we have a product. So I started living my life, the dreams and the reality that made everything that I talked about yesterday come true. Okay, if I want to take my wife on a honeymoon to the Maldives, how do I have to start living my life? There's a lot of people who will be like, oh wow, Mike's really changed the game since he met Kate. Yes, of course we've influenced our life on different areas, but if I didn't set myself up or take myself seriously, number 2, and focus on taking myself seriously, there's no way I would have ended up with Kate, because I started implementing a lot of these things to start paying off my debt before her and I even started traveling the country together. I started taking myself seriously around how I wanted to operate my life, because I knew the life I was living up to the time I was 28 years old was not the life I wanted to live for the next 30, 40, 50 years. It wasn't taking me the direction I needed to go to take my wife on a honeymoon for Maldives. So you see how this all aligns, like the big goals I talked about yesterday and how it projects. These are some of the things I ended up doing, but the biggest one, hands down, by far, is number 5. In 2009, I started a business. Okay, and I'm not saying that you have to go out and start a business, because you can work for someone else and do these exact same thing. You can do all of this working for somebody else. So I talk a lot about business. That's what the whole channel's about. That's what our whole life's about. So I'm going to talk about business. But in 2009, I talked about starting a business, or I started a business. And this was in USANA. It's a network marketing direct sales company. And within USANA, this is what I ended up learning from it. I learned how to take care of myself with better health. I focused on decreasing my expenses by increasing my income. I started to take myself seriously, because as a business owner, it is a much different mentality than working for someone else. But you can work for somebody else, but take ownership of your position and treat it like a business. And that's exactly what I started doing. I started treating my life like a business. I started promoting the USANA products. I started working within the USANA company. I started to look at the online marketing space. I started to watch people that were my mentors that I truly inspired me and how they ran their life. And I started to mimic those. I started to model them. And everyone that told me no, or you're stupid, or you're starting this and it's never going to work, I was like, peace. It's time to go. I'm getting you out of my life. It's time to go. And I started focusing on how I could add value to other people's lives. Because the reality of success I had with business is all about valuing myself. And that's all, the whole book that Kate talks about in Money, a Love Story. Everything that talks about, the core concept is valuing yourself. It's to start believing in ourselves. And this will be my public service announcement that's going to come out later. I don't know if it'll be day 7, but it's going to come out very, very soon. And it's just really about valuing ourselves of who we're bringing to the table, acknowledging that we have benefits that we can bring to the table, and that's why it's so important. And so this, starting a business is what led to all of this other stuff that happened. It's where I was able to decrease my expenses and start putting more money. And everything that came in with our business, I took all the income that was coming in and I started funneling it back into our business. So the more money I could invest in my business, the more income ended up happening, and then I was able to pay this off. It's not some super rocket science. I didn't do anything crazy. I did a couple things that I'll explain here in a second. But what I started doing was working with these other companies. And these are a couple questions that came in last night when I was thinking about this. So how long did it take to pay off? It took me 6 years to pay off. And then did I work with a debt consolidation company? I've never worked with a debt consolidation company. I don't know that much about the debt consolidation companies, but I feel they're debt consolidation companies, so they're probably pretty good. My recommendation would be to talk with them, see how it's going to change your debt situation, like what's the end result going to happen, and I would talk to more than one. I would at least talk to 3 to 5 companies so you can get a good feel for everything that you are going to talk to about debt consolidation, if that's something you want to look at. I don't know that much about it, so I'm not a good recommendation for it, but I always recommend anytime you're working with somebody, especially in that field, like if we're working with a financial planner, we'll talk to 3 to 5 of them to get a good feel that really resonates with us. Did it affect my credit score to have all this debt? And did creditors accept less? So regarding those two, I became a master at moving money around. I would use my student loan money that would get some time to pay off a property that I bought in Arizona, and I would move money around like crazy. I would use this credit card and then 0% APR for this one, and I would move balance transfers, and I would continue the money game. I became a master at moving money around, and I thought it was a great idea, but I still had all this debt, so that was the biggest thing. So what I ended up doing is once I stopped doing that and I was working with the credit card companies, I deferred student loans because I ended up getting laid off. I kept deferring. So my interest would continually build up with no payments. It was not, I don't suggest that, it wasn't a very good idea. And so I just continually took all this, added interest, but I knew in the next 3 to 5 years I'd be able to pay it all off. That was my goal, is over the next 5 years, 6 years to be able to pay it off, and I kept having that in my mind. Somehow, some way this is going to work out. Just action. I kept building business. What I ended up doing though with the credit card companies is I had a credit card that was like $17,000, and I called them and I was just like, look, this is really hard for me. I'm not able to pay this. I actually stopped paying for about 5 months, right before they sent it to a collector. And I talked with somebody about this who has experience with this because they are the people on the other end of the phone, the collections, and I'm not recommending this, just FYI. I would really work with your credit card companies because they've had so many people default on stuff over the last 5 years, so they might work with you. And I had a $17,000 credit that they said over the next 3 months, if you could pay us $1,200 or something like that, it ended up being about $5,500, we will reduce your overall credit payment. And yes, it affected my credit score, but over the past 2 years, 3 years, I've been able to rebuild my credit score, which has been pretty cool. So I ended up paying about $5,200 on a $17,000 credit card. I don't know. You never know what's going to happen when you talk to somebody. And don't just talk to the person that gets on the phone, talk to the manager. You could tell them about your situation if you're in an extreme situation. At that time, I was running out of money. I didn't have enough cash. I couldn't pay a student loan, all my credit cards, and live my life all at the same time because I wanted to focus on getting rid of my debt. So I made sure, and the credit card company they went for that deal that they made with me, really. I went for the deal they made with me, and that's how it ended up happening to reduce everything. So it worked really, really well with them. And I don't know, like that was just, at that time is what I really needed. But now I've learned my lesson from doing tons and tons of expenses. And so you just have to really look at, and you can sometimes work with your creditors. They will work with you, but you have to be open to working with them. And I know that from my personal experience, but I also know that from following a lot of other people, that if you do contact them, because they want to get their money that they've loaned out to you. So it helps to work with them. Question of the day today: how did you pay off? If you've paid off a lot of debt like I have, how did you pay it off? I'm very curious. And then if you haven't paid off all your debt yet, but you have debt, what is the first bill or the first charge or the first credit card you want to start working with. So what I always did is I laid out my total amount of debt that I had for each card that I owed them, as well as the percentage rates, and I always worked off the highest percentage rate, and then I would work from there. But you have to go with what you feel comfortable with to start knocking that down. So that's what I want to know. If you paid off a lot of debt, how did you pay it off? How did you go about it? Share your story. And then second, if you have a lot of debt, what is the first step? What's the first card you're going to take? How much is the balance? And then also, what is the actual APR with it? Thank you for watching the part 4 of the Money Mindset. And remember today, cash flow board game coming your way. Comment below. Our usual restaurant was booked up. All these summer folks really ruining our lifestyle up here. Onward to our second usual restaurant. Let's see how that goes. Our first restaurant was booked up. Second restaurant, good to go. We had a killer view.